thank you for giving us the opportunity to address the council tonight. It's quite nice to be back, and we were here about 12 months ago talking to you guys about the HTI development at Northbourne Avenue.
Yeah.
Funny that we're back with the same crew and the same developer. So this is a proposal that is prepared by HTI. So they're the same people that's doing the mandatory development on Northbourne Avenue. That proposal was submitted and approved earlier this year. That's currently under construction. Excuse me.
Can I put that on my desktop? Is that the right one?
That's correct.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it.
So this proposal relates to Block 2, Section 64 in Watson. That is the site of the Southern Cross King television station. That's on the corner of Aston Street,
Can I go down again? Okay.
Negus Crescent. The proponent has engaged both Canberra Town Planning and Cox Architecture to start working on this as a mixed-use proposal. And I'll say mixed-use, saying that it's primarily a residential development with an opportunity for a little bit of commercial. About 4 hectares oversized on that. That currently has a television station as well as some vacant land towards the southern part of that. There you go. I think I'll give Ronan an opportunity to talk to us about that in a second. What we've done to date is to start doing some initial design concept on the site. We've had a drop-in session a couple of weeks ago, which were attended by about 40 odd people came out for that, which was really good. Got some really good feedback out of that. We're at the moment working through the commentary that we received and refining some design ideas and the like. And we're planning to probably in about 3 or 4 weeks time, be back at the C3 Church in North Watson with a second round of consultation with the community to display some of the refinement and ideas that we have. What we've prepared for tonight is the same presentation or similar presentation to what we've done a couple of weeks ago. We thought it was a great opportunity to give you guys a bit of an idea about where we are at the moment with the proposal. So Ronan, if I can kick over to you to have a chat with us.
Thanks for having us tonight. My name is Ronan Moss. I work with a company called Cox Architecture. We're working with HTI on this development in Watson. I think the first thing I'll do is just orient you so you know where the sun is and know where you are. So basically the nature of the drawings is they're all facing north that way. So east is top of the page, west is at the bottom of the page, and south is to the back of the page. This is Aspinall Street running east-west, and this is Negus Crescent running north-south.
Where's like the federal highway?
Left-hand side. Over here.
Oh, yeah, I can
This is
see
the
it.
Canberra Southern Cross 10 building. That's where the site is. Everyone know where we are? Yep.
Is that top row? Is that Angel Street?
Central Street.
Yeah. That's
Angel
right.
Street's at the top.
To the north we have, to the east we have a development called the Solstice, which is a mixed-use development which has some private open space and public recreation space. But the general area doesn't have a lot of public recreation space. And I think one of the key things about this project we're putting forward is that the site has a lot of remnant trees, some very old trees that have been here longer than we have, basically. And so the proposal puts forward an idea where we try and retain as many of those trees as possible to create a lot of public open space. And key things about our development is there is this east-west connect. So there's a natural overland flow path that runs east-west through here. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to link these natural overland flow paths, so all the trees are irrigated properly and they're kept in their natural habitat. We're actually trying to work with the eastern neighbour. The eastern neighbour is also developing. I'm not sure if you know that, but to the east there's another housing development that's going in here, and to the south there's a development as well. So we're working with the eastern neighbour to try and set up an east-west connect through that overland flow path to allow water to run more healthily. So a few things I think we should look at is just the density of the area. So this is a typical suburban subdivision to the west of the site, and you can see that it's quite dense. They're 2 and 3 story houses, tight streets, generally backed by laneways for garages, etc. And the site to the east up here is more of a mixed-use precinct. When I say mixed-use, it's got mixed sizes of buildings. So there's 2 and 3 story houses, but then there's 4 and 5 story buildings surrounding the park. That's probably a good intro. So this is our development, or at least the early stages of the proposal. We presented this to the Community Council a few weeks ago. Now what's really noticeable about this development is that there's a lot of retained open space. So we're like, when I noted the drawing earlier about the amount of the density of these developments to the west, you'll notice that this development is not what you describe as a dense development as far as the area of building over the block itself. So there's been a strong desire to sort of retain this east-west connection, this overland flow path, and then the site is split up with a north-south road. Now this road is 20 metres wide. Now what's key about that is that forms a really good parking street. So as a 20-metre wide road, you have a carriageway, you have parking on both sides, you have footpaths for the kids to play on, and you also have frontages to your building. So it's like a city street, so that works well. To the northwest, we've got a building here which is a community building, but it's also a commercial and mixed-use building. So one of the things about Watchet and the area that we're in is there's no cafe, there's no sort of small commercial, there's no kids play areas. So what this development tries to do is it tries to throw in some mixed uses, and it identifies some of the things which are missing in the area and tries to supplement those. So in this building here there'll be cafe, retail, small commercial. It's north and west facing, so it has great aspect. You'll see that the site is broken up into a number of different building types. Now they're predominantly townhouses, and that's what we're familiar with in Watson. If you go around this part of Watson, there's a lot of townhouses. There are a couple of buildings on the site which are taller than a townhouse, and so they're similar size to what you might find at Solstice, which was up to the east. We're exploring the heights of those at the moment. Next slide. This is a really key slide because one of the driving sort of ideas behind this development that HCI have worked on us with is the way in which we're setting up the landscape. The landscape is like a key driver. Now we're working with a company called Oculus. So to put you in perspective, so Oculus are the company that designs all the public domain works at Acton. So they're a reputable company working out of Melbourne typically, and they've come here to do something similar. It won't be as urban as Acton, but something of a similar quality. And I think what's important when you're looking at a project of this size, the quality of the public domain is almost as, and I would argue even more important than the actual quality of the buildings, because the public domain is what sort of, it's the foundation of the buildings, right? So if a lot of these types of developments, the reason why they don't work is the footpaths don't work, like the garbage is put in the wrong spot and they just look messy. So working with a good landscape architect is really important. So these are some of the key moves. So there's an urban forecourt, and so the urban forecourt is the public space with the cafe, etc. Deciduous Avenue is a 20-metre wide street. The kids can play on the footpaths which bind the street. There's a green link running east-west. The Park Commons. So the Park Commons will have some sort of play space in it. We went to the community consultation a few weeks ago, and one of the things they commented on was that a lot of kids in the area, but they're not going to play. So this will be a play space. There's a communal garden between these two buildings in a native forest, which is basically retaining a lot of the existing remnant trees. Now the total open space on this block is roughly just over 10,000 square metres. It's a 4-hectare site, and 1 hectare is open space. So there's a real drive to kind of make it permanent. The next slides are, if you just go back a slide. Sorry. You're just sort of trying to remember where all these things are. This is the urban forecourt, this is the pocket park, Park Commons, Deciduous Avenue, Green Link, communal garden and native forest, because the next slides are just small precedents around those areas. Yep. So this is the precedents for the housing, and so these are townhouses, and I think the first thing you should probably recognise here is what you're seeing is a very domestic scale of building, which is something similar to what you might find in Watson at the moment. But what's really curious about this is you're seeing typically 2- and 3-storey buildings, but the way they're designed is they're tightly designed, and you've got vertical 3-storey elements mixed with 2-storey elements. This building here, for instance, which is of a nice residential scale, is 3 stories. So the mixture of 2 and 3 stories in townhouses can be done very successfully, and it doesn't need to seem overbearing as far as the height's concerned. Next slide. This is looking at the urban forecourt. aspiration. So the urban forecourt is the public space on the northwest. And so what Oculus are looking at doing there is setting up, the first idea was to set up an urban farm, but we can't do that because the Crown lease doesn't have an agriculture allowance. So we're not doing the urban farm anymore. But there is going to be a community garden space, and that garden space will be something, or a spot that typically the restaurateurs will use. So they'll probably use that to make their food, etc. And I'm sure there'll be opportunities for the residents also to use that. But you can see the sort of precedents they're going with. They're interested in some sort of activity. They want it to be interactive and communal, and a sort of a place you can be. Next slide. This is the deciduous avenue. So this is the 20-metre street. What's key about this is that a 20-metre street, like I said before, allows for parking. It allows for footpaths. It allows for seating. So it's they're generous streets where you can have full growth, mature trees growing on them. So it's not a There are some streets that have been built in the area, which are part of what we call a community title, and they're very tight. There's no space for footpaths. You sort of have to walk on the verge, on the side of the road, etc. So this 20 metres allows for a lot of space. Next one. This is the pocket park. So the pocket park is at the northeast side of the site, and again there's a mixture of hard and soft landscaping. But there's a real sense of trying to create a series of spaces for the community to gather. Typically there'll be the people who live there, but there's obviously space for others if they're interested in those areas. Next one. This is the Park Commons. Okay, so the Park Commons was the central area, the east-west link. It was the main park, and that had the playscape in it for the kids. And so what's interesting about the concept of a playground is it doesn't necessarily need to be swings and slippery dips, right? It can be something more sort of sculptural than that. And so I think the idea is that it is more sculptural. So it's a place where you can have a barbecue, but also the kids can climb on something. And there's an idea around potentially a climbing wall and other things like that. But again, it's a combination of sheltered space, play space, and then just outdoor space. Next one. Communal garden. This is one of the communal gardens which is between the two buildings. So next slide. Native forest is towards the back of the site. So this is where there's a lot of trees of this scale on the site. They're being retained, and so then there'll be landscaping set up around that so that the residents and members of the community can move through that. Because again, we're talking about 10,000 metres of space here. So it's big. There's a lot of open space. So there's a desire to incorporate things in that space so you can actually sit there and use it and appreciate it, etc. Next one. This is the final slide. This is the green link. This is the east-west link. Obviously, we've got a desire to connect as far east as we can. We're talking to our neighbour about that, but we want to maintain that natural overland flow path. Make sure trees of this scale, which we have. In fact, everything's trees from the site. And sort of are properly looked after, etc. I think that's the last slide. Oh, this is the last slide. Oh, these are the indicative trees. This is not my area of expertise, I've got to say. This is but what you have is a series of trees, which will be well thought through and planted.
And which ones might be invasive, potentially?
As I said, it's not my area of expertise. So this is the slide that the landscape architects put forward, and he would have thought very, very carefully about that. So, but actually, what he did say is this guy here. The Zelkova serrata is as a tree that you find on Torrens Street in Braddon. Yeah. So if you're interested, it's a very hearty tree. So the 20-metre street will be lined in the Zelkova serrata. So it's a hearty tree. It can be pruned. It can sort of work well. I mean, the issue with some of these gums, especially some of the gums that are on the site at the moment, is they have an issue with falling limbs. And so we have to be sort of mindful that if the main street is being used by kids and riding on their bikes and stuff, that the trees need to be hardy and not drop limbs, etc.
The common name for Eucalyptus mellifera.
Pardon me?
The common name for Eucalyptus mellifera subspecies maculata is brittle gum.
Okay, good. So
it'd be nice to see some more.
It'd be great if someone could interpret this slide for me.
My question related to, could you please ensure that there are no invasive introduced species?
There's nothing invasive there.
None of them are invasive? Yeah, I know my gum trees better than I know them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so,
But
I mean,
I think that's a good point. We'll make sure.
Can I
Talk
ask-
about that while we think
Sorry,
about it.
Yeah, Jane?
what is the zoning of the site?
She's
There's
in
only
6.
shops. When are we going to
with
go?
no residential
She's
outside.
in 6 as leisure accommodation, because the prohibition on residential being turned off.
It's got on the Brisbane Code, it's specific overlay to residential opportunity across the site.
So that specific overlay, when was that created?
Before the current plan, this dates back to probably about 2004, which I think really was changed. It's been for just about as long as I've been in Canberra.
So just one other thing, I should just quickly go through the community benefits, because it's the HCI is sort of looking at doing a lot for the community with this particular project. So there's obviously the public green square, which is to the northwest. There's over 10,000 metres of publicly accessible open space. Urban community garden, which is part of the public forecourt. But these are some really interesting initiatives which we should all be mindful to listen to. Rainwater harvesting, electrical shared power. There's electrical PV solar cells. The use of batteries, common area lighting, common garden urban farm, and then sustainable materials. So there is a I'm not sure if you're familiar with the projects that HCI have done, but they're a fairly new company. There's 2 projects they're doing at the moment, and they're worth checking out.
Okay,
So,
look, I'm conscious of the time, so I just want to check, well, okay, lots of questions. Okay, let's see how fast we can go. Neil, okay.
So I'm a layperson, but just looking at the design of your buildings quickly, are they all basically, you've got tall buildings on the north side, and most of the other buildings seem to be facing east-west, is that
Well,
right?
I mean, so what's interesting is when you design a house, typically, so if you can face a house due north, and face a house due north, one side of it gets sun and the other doesn't, and also if everything behind it doesn't get sun. When you face a house east to west, it gets sun in the morning, the courtyard gets sun in the afternoon at midday at north, and then it gets sun in the afternoon. So an east-west facing house is actually really efficient because you're getting, over that sort of 3 hours of sun direct
So
sunlight.
you've got some north-facing ones around that communal garden.
This one here,
Yeah.
absolutely, dead north.
Yeah.
And
So
so
why you couldn't get the rest of them?
Well,
Facing the same
because what we're doing is this. What's really important about this particular diagram is these buildings fit within the landscape. So we could have taken another approach and we could have mowed down the landscape and we could have fit the buildings in a particular way. But this is, if you have a look at the way these buildings are organised, they're organised in a way to fit within the landscape. So this area here works extremely well because the Park Commons, which has got some very, very old remnant trees in them. That's right. So there's been a lot of thought about how we retain the landscape and how the buildings respond to that. But also just on the question of solar, so that every dwelling gets, obviously a lot of sunlight.
And the 8-storey buildings don't.
So there's no 8-storey buildings.
I thought you said they're up to 8 stories.
Oh yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So one of the things we got out of our last community consultation is there was an exploration of the concept of height on this site, and one of the things that we got out of that was that 8 stories was probably going to be too high. So that's been reviewed. So that's part of the design review.
What was 8 stories too high based on? What's the rationale?
I think it's based on basically the character of the area. So if you go to the area, you've got to the east. You've got the Solstice, which has got the 4 and 5 story buildings, and a 4 or 5, and you can go a 4-story building with 2 stories on top. Like those scale of buildings, they fit well within the canopy and they kind of work. But an 8-story building starts to hit that high point, and so unless they're really well designed, which they would be obviously, but
Okay, Leon, I just got to be really strict now because it's 8:45. So,
Okay.
Leon.
Is this going to fit within the territory plan as the territory plan stands at the moment, or is it going to require changes?
No, it's designed different within the planning rules.
Okay.
My question was really the same as the other gentleman's about the orientation, that I thought we were aiming to have passive solar orientation. So if your argument is that it fits better in that particular landscape, well, I guess maybe that is the case, but it'd be interesting to actually see, the contour map of that site.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're putting together a series of sun diagrams. So all the apartments get north. They're all faced. Every apartment faces north. Well, I shouldn't say every apartment, because one doesn't face north, but like they've been designed so that the majority of them face north because they're flat plate apartments. We want them to face north and have that aspect. All of the townhouses have a courtyard, central courtyard, so that picks up northern light at any point in the day. Sorry, at midday. And then they've got east and west facing frontages. So the living spaces get morning sun, afternoon sun, and the courtyard spaces get midday sun. So they're designed in a way that they're obviously cross ventilated, etc. So they're designed in a way where you can basically track the sun. You can move around the house. So yeah.
That first thing.
Can I just clarify something? Again, it's solar orientation. Are these the townhouses?
So they're townhouses, but what's not shown there is that there's a long strip. There's courtyards in the middle of all of this. Yeah.
So this house, first one gets the northern sun. All these others don't get the northern sun. They get a little bit of sun in their courtyard.
There's a bit of showing a bit of slide.
Maybe go back a couple of maybe back one more slide. Yeah, so this is where it looks like.
So these are two-storey buildings?
Two-storey, correct, yeah.
So they were getting northern sun in summer?
That's correct, yeah.
What were they getting in that?
So they, as far as direct northern sun, I don't know the actual number, but all the dwellings get a minimum requirement of 3 hours direct sunlight. So
sorry, where do they get that?
So it's an east-west orientation. So the sun rises at the east and sets in the west.
And this is north.
That's correct.
So they've got living areas facing.
Running go the first slide out.
Oh, the first slide?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no, they got it.
Yeah. So this is east. So the sun does this around like that.
So in the morning they'll get from the east sun coming in as the sun cracks to due north.
What part of the ladder buildings, excluding the first north-facing building, gets sun?
So they all get a minimum. They absolutely.
No, what part of each townhouse gets sun?
So there's a requirement. There's a requirement within the territory plan. There's a requirement within the territory plan that a living space primary living space has to get 3 hours direct sunlight.
So the courtyards will have a north-facing window, and they'll get sun.
That's correct. So there'll be sunlight. So at midday.
The courtyards have north-facing windows.
Some might do.
They'll have east and west-facing windows. They have a room on the.
Oh, so some of them have a link. So some of them are linked.
Is there a corridor or an actual room?
Sorry, no, yes, this
sure.
question.
Yeah.
I'm from Adam Howard from HCI Group.
Yeah.
So what happens is the living areas through the townhouses face east and west. So in the morning they get sun, and as the sun comes around to the west, they get sun from the west.
On a winter's day, what do they get at midday?
Oh, I couldn't tell you that right now. Yeah.
Can
But
I
it's been
clarify
designed-
this?
Okay, hang on, hey, stop, everyone, okay? It's getting late, and we've had a number of meetings that go way over time, and when I invited you, I said, look, we have a very short time. You have another meeting that you can, discuss this further, okay? And quite happy to have emailed now. We have a DA checklist that I think we'll provide to you, because those are the kinds of things that we need answered, in general in a community consultation, so that could be taken care of when you have your drop-in session. But I did know there was one more question over here.
Not about solar access.
It's
It's actually about disability access. So, you've got a lot of 2- and 3-storey townhouses on the site.
Yeah.
What's the provision that you're making for disability access and ageing in place and flexible access and adaptable housing on the site?
So all of the townhouses, especially again, I shouldn't say all of the townhouses, but there is an allocation of townhouses that will have ground floor master bedrooms and ground floor suites, so that if someone is ageing in the place, they can move downstairs. That's one of the provisions, and then we've obviously got a series of large flat plate apartments. So you have lift access to an apartment floor plate, etc. So it's it's certainly a project which sort of meets those requirements. I just want to go back to the solar thing very quickly and just point out this. Like, so this, I don't know who lives here. Does anyone live down here? So this is a standard residential subdivision, and this is all facing kind of, you know, eastish. And so what we're looking at is a situation where we've got so much public open space in our development. And so if we want to talk about solar access, this is, I mean, I don't want to harp on solar access, but I just want to point out what's happening around us so that we start to grasp what we're trying to do with our particular project. Sorry, any more questions?
Yeah, quick question. How old is that existing development you pointed out?
I'm not sure actually.
Okay, that was Rachel's was the last question. I hate to have to cut it short. It's just that
That's fair enough.
we did get this on short notice. We already had another presentation, so we've squeezed you in. And we're trying to balance the fact that we want everyone to know this is going on. At the same time, we have a lot of other business that we've got to discuss as well.
I think what's quite important is there's another consultation session. We'll
Yeah.
directly,
Yeah.
like we did previously, advise you guys when
Yeah.
it's in advance. Will be letterbox dropping everyone in the surrounding area. There'll be ads in the papers. We really invite you to please come along. If you've got more questions, we'll be there for 3 hours in the night. We're happy to talk to you about those things. We'll be much more resolved than what we are now. I mean, this was where we were about 2 weeks ago, and yeah, we're continuously, you know, with the additional feedback and get reviewing what we're doing. So, you know, we invite you to please sort of come with us on the journey and be part of the process.
Okay, no, appreciate that. But yeah, thanks for your time. Sorry I had to.
That's fine.